everyone, it's Katie and Mike. Say hi, Mike.
Hi, everybody.
We just got out of the movie I've been waiting for since, 1996.
96?
96 or 97. Yeah, long time ago. Basically over 20 years. Yeah, so we got out of A Wrinkle in Time, aka the book that made me want to be a writer and the book that, was my favorite as a child. We actually, similarly to Black Panther, we actually saw this twice now. We got to see an early screening, but we didn't drive there, so we didn't do the video, which is probably a good thing because I felt very, I liked the movie a lot the first time we watched it, but also, I think Mike and I talked about this several times. I have such a very specific emotional connection to the story that I think that there were parts that were changed for the movie, specifically like scenes that were different, a few scenes that were cut, characters that were cut, that sort of thing to tighten it up. There were parts of it that that it's not that I disliked it, and I definitely knew they were going to change things, but that I was a little sad that they had changed. So then I had a few days to kind of mull this movie over, and we went to see it again tonight. And I think that we both agree that the movie's just really good. It's different from what the book was in many different ways. If you've seen the trailer, you'll know at least a few of those in terms of the way certain characters are shown. But the core about having confidence in yourself and love being a powerful force for good, and family, and having bravery in the face of horrible things. There's a lot of that's running through the core of this movie, and the focus on Meg is really fantastic. I just feel like every little girl needs to watch this movie. What did you think? As someone who has read the book, but as an adult.
I think it's a very good movie. It's excellent. I totally think that I'm trying to think of how to put this. There's a lot of pressure on movies to be it's for everybody, and it's all these things, and it's got to be a kids movie, but it also can be an adult movie, and then there's the other things, and all these other things that get piled onto movies that they try to be everything. But this movie is exactly what it wants to be, and that's hope and optimism and a kids movie.
Yeah,
not just a kids movie, but it's a kids science-y movie, and it's a perfect little movie for what it is, and it's an excellent movie.
Yeah, I agree. The thing that I said leaving, I think it was when we were leaving the theater on Monday when we got to see the early screening, was the one word, if I had to say one word about this film, it's sincere. It is an extremely sincere, earnest, wears its heart on its sleeve type movie, which is exactly what the book was. I mean, that's the thing. There have been some negative reviews of the movie, but they're from people who are like, oh, it's too sentimental and blah blah blah. I'm like, that's what the book was, though. That's the story. That's what makes it a good adaptation of the book, because it keeps that tone and that message. And if you go into the movie being completely cynical and disliking everything about that part of it, then you're gonna dislike the film. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. That's not a flaw of the film. That's one of the successes of the film, is getting that tone of earnestness and optimism and the message of love. Love was a huge part of the film, or of the book. So, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's funny to see the reactions from people that are just tweeting about the film, especially moms and women, and moms talking about what their kids said, and a lot of it is just it's really good, and that it meant something to them. So it's hard for me to I don't know if we want to go through every beat by beat sort of thing, But it's about a girl named Meg, played by Storm Reed, who her father had disappeared suddenly 4 years ago, and he was working on the scientific discovery of potentially how to basically travel through time by wrinkling, or like traveling through space by wrinkling time. And it's been like 4 years to the day since her father disappeared, and her little brother befriends these 3 magical beings, these kind of, not even magical, but like cosmic beings that are there to help them because they found a connection to her father. So they take the 2 siblings and Meg's classmate Calvin on this journey to find her father. And I don't know, everybody does such a good job, and I kind of I don't know how much more I want to say. I know this is kind of, so far, kind of a short review.
Well, you know what? I kind of say you should talk about the things that you really liked about the story, the things they changed from the book, the things you think work better, things that you think, talk about because you're a person that read the book, which is probably a one-up on a lot of people's reviews.
That's true.
So I think that would be a very interesting thing to cover, and I think we should probably get into spoiler territory.
Yeah, I was going to say,
so let's talk about the performances, and then let's move on.
Yeah, we'll just go, all right, we'll go into spoiler territory right now. Spoilers. Now, granted, some of this is spoilers for a decades-old book. Some of them are spoilers for the movie itself. So what I will say, hands down, Meg is amazing in this film. The way that she's written, the way she's specifically written as a young black woman, or a black girl, and the specific ways that her confidence is kind of shattered makes so much sense. I mean, I've been saying this since the casting was announced, that it makes so much sense for Meg to be a young black girl because she's angry, she's frustrated. People immediately blame her for things when she's what's the word for it? When she's pushed to get angry, she gets blamed for what happens. They say stuff about how, like, they call her aggressive when she retaliates on a classmate that's being flat out cruel to her. And she also doesn't like her hair, and because she has natural hair. And so much of that is from the book, and it makes so much sense for her to have that here. So the writing for her is really good, and then it means a lot when she starts to trust in herself and love herself, culminating in, after she's saved the universe, after she's stopped this like massive evil, she's the one, she finally can properly test her, which is what they call traveling, wrinkling time and traveling to vast parts of space. So she finally gets to experience that the way she was meant to, and the only reason why she can do that is because she starts to love herself. And suddenly it becomes from this, like, she was closed off and she could barely breathe, and it was the most uncomfortable experience for her, and suddenly it's like a revelation, and it's glorious, and it's a moment of triumph for her, and suddenly it's like, oh, this was what I was missing. And it's such a good metaphor for a girl learning to embrace who she is and being happy in her own skin. So that was amazing. And the direction for it is also really good. Again, Storm Reed has some incredible nuance in her acting. I thought it was so good. On top of that, we have Chris Pine as her dad, who is, again, if you watched our Wonder Woman review, you'll know how much I loved him in that movie. And I said as much during the review that I was super excited for him to be in this movie, because he is just this tortured person who's been lost for years, and he's and he loves his family so much. The scene where they reunite is incredible. I mean, top-notch acting. It's an amazing moment.
Speaking of that moment, like, that is one of the, like, most artistic little reunions I've seen in a long time, because a lot of movies would probably go very dark with, like, the cage he's in.
Yeah.
But he's in, like, a cage of light and color.
Yeah, but it's like eerie. Oh, careful. But it's eerie because it's like this orange, and it's like the colors in this movie. We're getting away from the acting. We'll come back.
All the art direction in this movie is amazing.
It's so good. The costuming is fantastic throughout, but just in general too, just like the colors are gorgeous. It feels like surreal, and the universe feels like it's full of color. I really liked Michael Peña's Man with the Red Eyes. When I found out that he was the one doing it, I was like, oh, that's going to be interesting. And he has a very small role, even though he has a small, like, the character has a small role in the book too, but he's really effective because he's really creepy. The other two kids are really good. The kid who plays Calvin is really fantastic. You see a lot of male love interests in movies aimed for like teens and preteens and kids, and he's really earnest. He seems like a kind boy, and he multiple times is just kind of in awe of how great Meg is. And he just seems like their chemistry together is so dang good. It's nice to see, again, like a young girl character who you totally buy the fact that why he likes her. You know what I mean? It's so good. And then the celestial beings known as the Misses. I was a little worried, not so much about Oprah, but about Reese Witherspoon and Mindy Kaling, because a lot of the dialogue for these characters can come off as almost too whimsical. And I honestly think, and I was very worried with the commercials, only because the way that they were edited, there were a couple lines that sounded a little stilted. And honestly, it was very good. Mrs. Whatsit, played by Reese Witherspoon, is probably the one that deviates the most from the book. In the book, she's the youngest, and she's very sweet, but she's very sweet. And in this movie, she has a little more bite to her. She's also almost a little more immature because she keeps not trusting Meg to do stuff, and she gets very impatient, and she has to learn. Like, this is her first mission too, and they do a really good job though in the movie of kind of calling out Whatsit for being impatient, for not listening, for not paying, for being kind of flighty, and they make it very clear that, like, no, she should really be
patient.
Yeah, and she ends up learning from her mistakes. Mindy Kaling,
10,000 years old you reach.
Yeah, exactly. And then Mindy Kaling plays Mrs. who has trouble articulating in language because she's so wise and so vast. So she uses quotations from other people to get across her meaning, while quoting it though. And she and Calvin have this really great little friendship that I enjoyed. All of the misses actually connect with one of the kids. So for Mrs. it's Calvin, who's very in the book especially, he's very like focused on English, like he does good in English stuff. And then Mrs. Whatsit connects with Charles Wallace because they're both younger, and that makes really sense. And then Mrs. Witch, who's played by Oprah, who is the wisest and the leader, connects with Meg. And I have to say, like, I never really connected with Mrs. Witch in the book because she's literally very, like, distant. She doesn't completely solidify in the book at all, I don't think, or maybe like once. So she's not really that connected. And in the movie, she's the main mentor for Meg, and she has some really wonderful scenes with her where Meg, kind of in awe of the three, beings, goes like, "You're all so beautiful." And Oprah, Space Oprah, but Mrs. Witch goes, "Thank you, and so are you." And Meg doesn't believe it. And there's a part later where she asks if she can come back as someone else because she kind of wants to be someone else. And there's like this, the way that Mrs. Witch reacts to her is so lovely and sweet. And there's just like some really good moments in this film. And again, as someone who the book meant so much to me as a kid, I feel like it really nailed the most important parts of this story. I'm trying to think if there's anything else off the top of my head that I absolutely loved.
Do you want to talk about
the things
George
that
Wallace or
Charles Wallace?
Charles Wallace, yeah.
George Wallace is someone else.
Yes.
Charles Wallace here's the thing. That character is really hard to pull off because it's a child genius. And there are a lot of child genius characters that become insufferable, which is not really the fault of the story because the story is decades old. It's the fault of every story that came after it and them being cast with like really terrible young actors. But Charles Wallace in the film is actually, I think, pretty good. I liked him. I think liked him better the second watch. But it's a hard role. It really is, because he's supposed to be like a genius. He is a prodigy, and it's really hard to pull off those characters. But I think he does a good job of walking the line and still seeming like a kid.
Here's the thing, like, I thought it was really sort of okay, just good when he was playing, normal, everyday George Wallace.
Yeah.
Or, but when he turns and gets possessed by the it is so creepy.
It's so
good.
So
good.
Yeah. No, they got a real good kid to convincingly play a sinister taken over by an evil entity child. Yeah, he did really good with that. I do think I totally bought his relationship with his sister. I think that was the strongest part of his, because they have some really lovely scenes together.
Yeah, normal Charles Wallace.
Yeah. And so when he comes to and he's scared that he lost his sister, that I totally bought. You know?
That was good.
When he hugs his dad also once he's depossessed, that was also incredibly sweet, because you know that, like...
That's their reunion.
Yeah, that was their reunion. I also really like the fact that, so the kid who was cast is actually, I believe he's Filipino-American, and Meg and her mother were cast by black actresses. And I was worried, specifically worried that they were going to do the casting for Charles Wallace and not address the fact that the actor who plays him is not black. That's why I was so pleased when I found out that they actually specify at the beginning of the movie that Charles Wallace is actually adopted. Suddenly, it's like, oh, that's actually really great. Not only because you're specifically not pretending that he is a black kid, but also because, like, how often do you get mixed race adoption stories where like there are so many, and really just adoption stories where it doesn't become like the main focus of the story, but it's still a core part of the characters. And there's also, I think that there's something interesting about how, because in the book, Charles Wallace kind of throws it in dad's face that, like, you're not my dad. You were never there. Like, it was kind of like that. Like, how would I even know you were my dad? So for him to then go, like, you're not my dad, that actually, like, it already hurt in the book, but in the movie, it, like, that cuts to the core, you know? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, no, that was all really good. I also really liked, because one of the changes there are some things from the book I wish they kept in, and we will get to that. But what I liked that they changed in the book is that, so in the book, the misses go to the kids and go, oh, we're going to go on an adventure and save your dad. And they go off, and the reason why they go to that first planet isn't to, like, look for him, it's to to safely show them what the it looks like. It's actually, I think it's not Kamas. I never know how to pronounce it, but it's not the actual planet that it is on, but it's another, like, planet that's lost to darkness. But it's specifically there to, like, to prep them for what's coming, because they're not planning to find their father. They're specifically like, oh yeah, you're gonna go rescue your dad. Also, we can't be there, so bye now. Whereas in the movie, they're specifically trying to find the father. And actually, I think that they imply that they were hoping to make him because he can Tesser, make him one of their warriors, because they have warriors throughout the universe that helps fight the evil. So it turns out, though, they discover that he's actually been taken by this evil entity, and the misses can't go because they're made of light and they can only travel to places with light. So so they're like, okay, we can't do this. We will go back to Earth. We will talk to your mother. We will regroup. Which is, like, way more mature and like, reasonable than, like, oh yeah, no, our plan the whole time was to drop you 3 kids on this planet and hope you don't succumb to the evil darkness. So yeah, it was better this way. I feel like the screenwriters went, like, right, that's kind of messed up. I mean, you know how, like, Gandalf kind of did that to Bilbo, but, like, Bilbo was still an adult man. It would be kind of weird for them to do that to kids. Whereas with this, it's Meg ends up struggling against the Tesser to go back to Earth, and instead accidentally slingshots her and her friends to the evil planet on accident. So I'm going to talk about a couple things that I still wish were in it. One, really only a couple things, a couple specific things. One, when they're on the planet that it is on, the home, I didn't particularly like the fact that it implied that everything that was on the planet, Mike's got to check something, that's why the door's on. I didn't like the idea that everything that was on the planet, that the evil planet with it,
I just wanted to make sure I gave the guy behind me enough space.
Okay. So sorry, this is like my third time trying to express this. I was kind of disappointed that it implied on the evil planet that everything was an illusion, because in the book it's that this was a planet that had been taken over by it, and literally everyone on that planet was beholden to. It was actually very 1984-ish, where it's like everybody has to do everything the same, and they're all under the system, and it's very bureaucratic. And I don't know if I liked, and I still don't know if I liked the idea that everything was actually an illusion. You know? Did you get that sense? Or do you think that those people were all real?
It can go either way.
Okay, I just like it better that, like, these people were trapped. Maybe that was a little too dark because then you don't see them after.
Here's the thing, like, the whole movie is about interdimensional travel. And like, there's also, like, a lot of, like, hidden pockets of reality. That's, like, the key point of the climax.
True. So they could still, so those people could still have been
existing there, but it's just like tessering.
Okay, I'll buy that.
You're both simultaneously in this neighborhood, and also you're at the beach, and also you're in this room with the cage.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I can buy that. Okay, so again, it just wasn't my favorite visual for one, because like the ball bouncing is so effective.
The ball bouncing was really good.
And that's how it was in the book. That was like a freaky thing in the book, and it's very specific.
Because they're just sort of like, they're not in a rhythm, and they're like, and it's like, when you're expecting it, it doesn't happen. Yeah. And then when you're not expecting it, it's like offbeat, everything.
Yeah. I also kind of wish one of the things, I'll say this, and this is a very small thing, but the reason why Calvin Wallace gets taken over in the book was because of his hubris. Like, specifically, like, the man with the red eyes going like, oh yeah, like, all you have to do is look into my eyes and you'll see where your father is. And Meg's like, no, do not do that. That is a bad idea. He's clearly tricking you into doing something bad. And Charles Wallace was like, well, obviously I can take it. Obviously I'm a genius. I can do this. I will save you know what I mean? He tries to take this burden on his own instead of listening to Meg and staying together. And it was in looking into the man into the eyes. And here it was more of like, it almost happened too fast. Like, he didn't get to, like, agree to this stupid thing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It feels like he fell into it instead of choosing to walk through a trap.
Yep.
You know? Again, small thing. I feel like that might have been an editing thing where they had more dialogue and they just cut it a little. So,
although they did sort of just have Charles Wallace just sort of eat the sandwich, but then, like, not, like, I don't get the trap they set for Charles Wallace.
The sand thing was in the book.
I know. But Calvin ate the sand too.
No, it wasn't the sand. It was him looking into, and it was the rhythm of the multiplication. The multiplication table. It could have been a little bit stronger. I didn't mind it too much. I just wish there was another beat or two, just because in the book it's super creepy. And again, it's very specifically like Charles Wallace's fault that he fell for it. And in this, especially because I think Meg stops him at first, and then he's like, no, I can go back in and I'll be fine. Which is stupid. It was not a smart idea. So I'm going to talk about the big one for me. Actually, two big ones, but the bigger one, which is that if you're a fan of the book, Aunt Beast isn't really in the book. She is seen when the happy medium is kind of trying to figure out where their dad is. Because they do go to the happy medium, which is very different from the book, but I was fine with it. I thought it was an interesting interpretation. It's very different. Like, in the book, it's a she, and she's a fortune teller, basically. She has, like, a glass ball, and they look into the glass ball. But yeah, in this, it's more of a kind of shaman-type thing, and he balances, and he's played by Zach Galifianakis. And he does a great job, but it's just a different take. So anyway, so we do see when he's trying to find their father, we do get a vision of a couple different planets, one of which is one with Aunt Beast. And I think last time I heard him say, oh, look, there's Aunt Beast. And I was like, thanks for telling the audience that. Hey guys, look, it's Aunt Beast. See, we put her in. All right, bye. Whereas in the book, after the heartbreaking moment when Meg's dad chooses to save her and leave Charles Wallace, they get sent to that planet, and basically over a couple days, I think, she has has to be healed because she does a Tessera real bad this time, and she's basically frozen. Or petrified or whatever. And so Aunt Beast, who is basically that big one of those big furry walking things, takes care of her. But I think something that a friend of mine had said after we got out of the preview was that in some ways the happy medium ends up helping her through some of the lessons that Aunt Beast does in the book. I mostly was disappointed, not just because Aunt Beast isn't there, but because I felt like we needed more time for her to be mad at her father, and then more time to decide to go back and save Charles Wallace, which is another important part. And I feel like that might have actually been filmed, because it feels like when she says, like, I'm coming to save you, it felt like a moment she would say after she has specifically decided to go save him, instead of like basically ripping herself away from her father to be pulled back by Charles Wallace. I'm wondering if there's going to be a director cut of this, because it feels like a movie that might have a longer cut.
I think it does probably feel like there's a movie here that has a longer cut, but I doubt it's going to get a director's cut release.
I want it to, though. We'll see. You don't know. There might be.
To be fair, I don't know of many movies getting director cut releases in the last...
Ghostbusters did.
Ghostbusters did. I don't remember many, though.
Yeah, I know.
That was something that happened a lot with DVDs.
I'm hoping the deleted scenes, at least. I'm probably going to get this on DVD, just so you know.
Well, I mean, we'll get it on Blu-ray, but I mean...
You know what I meant. On recorded device or whatever. So, the last thing I will say in terms of things that I was hoping for that didn't happen. Well, one, and this was something that someone mentioned, their dog is named Fortinbras, which was always fun because it was one of the side characters in Hamlet. The dog is in the movie. Fortinbras is in the movie, but I don't think they ever call him Fortinbras. So, yeah. I know people who are like, no, Fortinbras. He's still in it, but they just don't mention him by name. No, the other one thing, and I told Mike this multiple times over the past week, especially as the credits were rolling in the first screening, we didn't get Calvin kissing Meg. And here's the thing. So I love this book. Calvin was like one of my literary crushes growing up. I was rooting, like they're about as OTP as you can get with me for Meg and Calvin. And it was always thrilling to me that this girl who felt like awkward and frustrating and angry and not worthy of love, that she got kissed by the cute boy. And in Disney's made-for-TV movie from like 2002 or something, there is a part where Calvin goes up to Meg, and before she has to run back to save her brother, where he says, "Oh, I would kiss you, but your dad's right here." And I threw a fit. I was like, how dare you? How dare you do this to me, movie? So when I found out that this movie was being made, I was like, yes, among other things, I will get that kiss I've been waiting for. And that did not happen in this movie. They hug. They have a crazy good chemistry. Ridiculously good chemistry.
You know what? You don't know what they did in the log.
They did not, but they do hold each other tight multiple times in this movie, and they also hold hands. And them holding hands for the first time was freaking adorable. It was so good. Did you see me grinning? Because I was grinning.
I can see you grinning now.
Yeah, it was really good. So this is why they need to make the second book into a movie, because I need to see more of this relationship, and hopefully they will kiss in this next one. You better, Disney. Don't do this to me.
That's all you want.
So, it was very good. The first time, I've had not really mixed feelings. I just had some mixed thoughts about certain aspects. But watching it again, really solidified my liking of it. I think it does so much of what the book did for me, and I think it's going to be an amazing viewing for all kids, but especially girls, and especially girls of color. If you have kids, go see this movie with them. I'd say, I was thinking about this in the movie because I've had some people who have younger kids ask me if, like, scariness. I would say, like, probably around like Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets in terms of scariness.
Yeah.
There are no giant spiders, at least, but there are some spooky, creepy stuff.
Yeah. I'd put this movie on par with some of the early first 3 Harry Potters.
Yeah, I'd say so, yeah. So if they can handle that, I think they could handle this. I just thought it was really good, and I'm happy it exists, and I'm hoping that we get to see the next movie in it. I just want it to do really well, one, because I want to see more movies from this cast, from Ava. I also just want lots of kids to see it because they deserve to see it, and it's gonna be something that will really stick with a lot of kids, and I'm excited for that, and we need more movies like this. So that's what I got. You got anything else to say?
As someone who, like, basically lost their father when I was, like, 8, there's a lot that I relate to with Meg and early Meg. And I think it really hit that pretty good because I kind of felt the connection there.
Aww.
But it was a really good, excellent movie.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're a dad, bring tissues because you will get emotional. Just saying. Oh, come on. That reunion scene?
Maybe.
Maybe, fine. That's all I got to say. I like this movie a lot. I love the story. I'm just happy that it exists. So that's all I got. We are going to try to see Annihilation while it's still in theaters because I'm very excited to see that. So fingers crossed we can get to that in the next week or so. And besides that, we'll be back with another Driving Home the Movie. Katie? Mike? JustPlayedSomething.com. We'll see you later.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.